VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And thank you for joining us on Crosstalk here from VCY America. Ladies and gentlemen, for many years, we have warned at the attempts to usurp parental authority. Such is true when we saw the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. I mean, all of the many tenets of this. Fortunately, the United States has not signed on to this. This has also been true as we've seen schools who direct children to an abortuary to obtain so-called services without parental knowledge or consent. We've seen sanctuary cities for the purpose of obtaining body-mutilating services. And now there's another direct threat, this time in the state of California, that actually should have every parent in America concerned. The Homeschool Legal Defense Association says this puts parental rights at risk. California Family says this will bypass and sidestep parents. Save California indicates this strips parents of their parental rights and allows for kids to be stolen from their parents. The Center for Arizona Policy warns that this would produce legalized child trafficking. The Pacific Justice Institute calls this a direct threat to parental rights and children's safety. Pastor Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel in Chino Hills has encouraged families to leave California if it passes. Well, our guest today indicates this will affect all children in California, public, private, and homeschooled. What are we talking about? AB, that's Assembly Bill 495 in California, the so-called Family Preparedness Plan Act. Joining us today, we welcome Karen England, Executive Director of the Capital Resource Institute, that their organization educates and strengthens families and engages in public policy. Karen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So you at Capital Resource Institute and a host of pro-family organizations I've quoted from in and out of California, along with pastors, are warning about California Assembly Bill 495. They're calling it the Family Preparedness Plan Act. That reminds me of the Inflation Reduction Act, which did the opposite, or the Affordable Care Act, which did the opposite. So tell us about this legislation and why you believe this is so dangerous.
Well, let me say I call it the Pedophile Protection Act. It isn't a Family Preparedness Act at all. It is something that redefines the family. So first, let me just say, as I go forward, your listeners aren't going to believe what I'm saying. So I want to encourage them to look this stuff up themselves. I realize how crazy it sounds. It sounded crazy when I read it. So what AB 495 does for a state-enabled policy.
Okay, Karen, I'm kind of losing you there. We're cutting out there.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, okay. We're kind of distant. I apologize for this. I'm
sorry, I haven't moved.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so it opens the door to state and trafficking, and I'll explain why. It is being sold as a way to help immigrant children if their family members are picked up by ICE by allowing anyone to print off their own computer a piece of paper and call it the caregiver's authorization. And the caregiver, which I can print it off my computer in California, I fill the form out, including your child's name, I sign it, I check a box that says I was unable to get a hold of your parents, and I now can assert all medical, mental, schooling authority over your child. And again, you can read the bill yourself. AB 495 literally says you do not need a parent's signature on this. And it couldn't be any more clear that this affects all kids, not just going to school and not just kids in California. If you travel to California and you have a family member traveling to California, or you send your kids out to visit their aunt, They can authorize, they can print this off their own computer, and all of a sudden, they're vaccinating your child, getting them an IUD, gender transition drugs, and you would never know. There's no notification of the parent whatsoever.
This is outrageous. I mean, so first of all, there's many things that happen with this legislation, but one thing it does, it enlarges this definition of even what a relative is, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It expands it. So right now, and the law is really bad right now, there is a caregiver's authorization, and it limits to immediate family. This new bill expands the family, and I believe the whole intent is to redefine the family. Mm-hmm. Expands the family to the fifth degree, and even if a marriage is dissolved, so a former great aunt would be able to do this and exercise these rights over your child. But it also goes on and it includes any mentor, and they include, but not limited to, teachers, coaches, any teacher, and drama coach, traveling, soccer coach. That now has the authority to fill this form out and have possession of your child to do these things. And at that point, that's what supersedes anything. That's why Homeschool Legal Defense Fund and Alliance Defending Freedom and First Liberty and all of these national groups have jumped on board, because this truly is something that says, I have the authority. And when you go to the school to pick up your kid, if somebody went and exercised this and brought this form to the school and took your child, the school doesn't have to tell you who took them.
Oh, my.
This supersedes anything. And you can get your rights back, but you have to go to the court. And if the court says, if the caregiver objects, the court decides if it's up to the best mental health and safety of the child to go back with the parent.
So anybody...
Now, in California, on the transgender issue, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. So virtually anybody could go on their computer, download this form. It was like an affidavit, something of that nature?
Yeah, they would have to create it, but, we've created it. And I'm sure schools will have it, but yes, and the bill cares more about making sure that the form is printed in a 10-point font. They care more about that than ensuring that the child is going to be safe and that the parents know about it.
So
the bill was very specific, yes, as long as it's in 10-point font.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So you're saying teachers, coaches, a soccer coach, drama coach, just anybody could really take custody of a child.
Oh, absolutely. Our organization for 37 years has done a youth leadership camp in California, and this year we had students from Oklahoma, Tennessee, Utah, Arizona, and California. So I had students for a week out at Pepperdine with me between 14 and 18 years of age. I could have filled the form out as a mentor of every one of those kids and had them seen at a doctor. And the other thing is, the bill is explicitly, several places, says, when I use this, the person receiving the form, the school, the hospital, the doctor, there is zero liability for them. They're not responsible for who brought this in and brought this child in. They're off the hook for anything.
Any background checks needed?
Oh, no background checks needed, no notary needed, no ID needed. The form makes you fill out your Social Security number or California driver's license, but you don't have to show it to anyone. So even if you fill it out and you take it to the school, you don't have to show your ID to the school or to the doctor or to anyone. It does not have that provision in it whatsoever. And the other interesting thing in this bill, in addition to the idea that you can just write down your Social Security number or just write down your driver's license number, it also specifically says that you that you can use your government consular ID. So you can be from another country.
Oh, my.
And use that country's ID and write it down.
Now, there are those who say this, you're carrying this too far, Karen. This is really only about immigrant children.
Well, I'm very big on asking, can you show me where in the bill it says it's only immigrant children? Because it clearly everywhere says it's all children and throughout. And that's why they were couching it with a lot of immigration language in the front.
Yes.
And especially in like the summary, the stuff that isn't the legal language that won't become law or the intent. But when you look at the law, it clearly is every child. And again, don't believe me, there's a reason that HSLDA, a very well-respected legal organization out of D.C., is opposing this bill and saying it's a threat to parental rights. It covers everybody. And let me add this, because this is not good for immigrant children either. And so this idea that somehow this is compassionate for them, those parents have rights too. And I think immigrant children are going to be those most at risk because they're already in the shadows. And when an immigrant, there's an ICE raid somewhere, bad actors that are in that community know exactly where to go and exactly what kids are home alone or exactly what the parents that are gone and will take advantage of this because bad actors don't care about signing under penalty of perjury.
I mean, watch out. I mean, we're talking child trafficking is made possible by this legislation.
Easily. And while legally is a legal term, they are enabling it and allowing it and making it very difficult to even find the child once this has taken place.
There's a term that comes up in this as well called unable to contact as it relates, I believe, to contacting a parent. Comment on that, if you would.
Yes, so the form, the one-page form in 10-point font, it says that you have to check one of two boxes. One says, I notified the parent, a parent of my intent to take caregiver authority over your child. And the other box you check is, I was unable to contact the parent or guardian to let them know of my intent. So it doesn't even define what that means. I mean, unable. Oh, I didn't have their phone number. I mean, it's just so wide open with loopholes. You just check. Everybody can just check that box. I mean, I had those kids at camp. I just checked that box. Well, I was unable to. You know, I called their work number after 5 o'clock. I mean, all of it is just fraught with loophole after loophole after loophole.
This could also allow for hostile relatives to enter in too, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Think about, and I hate bringing up COVID, but think about how many families were split on COVID.
That's right.
And, you know, especially with especially with the kids. And you can see a nosy grandmother who's babysitting for the day thinking they absolutely are saving the child by going and getting a little grandson the COVID shot. Or vaccines, you know, there's a lot of people that other family members don't agree about vaccines, and aunts and uncles would take the kid, they're just babysitting them for a day, take the kids to get it because they really believe like they're saving that kid's life. I mean, this is absolutely crazy, and there's no liability. That aunt or uncle or grandparent just has to check and say, I wasn't able to get a hold of them. Well, I wasn't able to get a hold of them because they were, you know, at a work meeting, and I knew that, and I went and got the child vaccinated.
I put my head out the window, yelled for him, nobody responded, so I was not able to contact.
Exactly.
Friends, you're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Karen England with us today, Executive Director of the Capital Resource Institute. We're talking about parental rights under threat, not just in California, that's where the legislation is, but friends, stay with us. We'll be back in a minute with more here on Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, geologist with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, did the fossils take millions and millions of years to form?
Chris, we're all taught this, but in some ways this doesn't seem to make sense. We find millions and billions of well-preserved fossils, such as fish showing scales and tiny bones. Yet when a fish dies, it floats to the surface or it sinks to the bottom where it's eaten by scavengers or quickly decays. In order for it to be preserved, it's got to be buried rapidly away from destructive processes. It seems obvious that fossils must be buried quickly by water action, and what can do that? I propose the Great Flood of Noah's Day. The fossils, by and large, are animals that died in the flood, laid down in sediments deposited by the flood. Yes, indeed, Chris, the flood is the key. It's the flood mentioned back in Genesis.
To find out more about creation science, visit us on the web at www.icr.org. That's www.icr.org.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. If you're a parent, grandparent, I think you ought to be concerned about what's going on in California here with this Assembly Bill 495. They're calling it the Family Preparedness Plan Act. Our guests here today call it the Pedophile Protection Act. I mean, it allows for that to take place. They said, well, that's not our stated intent with it. No, but when you hastily, draft legislation together, thinking that this is somehow, going to help those who are in our country illegally through illegal immigration and trying to put different measures in place that somebody can make decisions for them if mom and dad are apprehended. But friends, this is sweeping legislation that's incumbent upon every family, every child, every parent being impacted by this in the state of California. Karen England is with us. She is executive director of the Capital Resource Institute. And Karen, I understand that when people fill out this form, that not even parental consent is needed for that, correct?
Oh, no parental consent, notification, nothing. Here, and I will tell you what the form actually says. It says, and this was the other thing, they were very specific to make sure was on this authorization affidavit. There were 2 warnings, and one of the warnings says, warning to school districts and healthcare service providers. A parent's signature or a seal or signature from a court is not required.
My.
So that's telling the school, that's telling the hospital, that's telling the doctor that no parental involvement whatsoever is necessary, and you need to give this caregiver the weight as if they were the parent.
I mean, any relative or even non-relative can fill out such a form. I mean, if they have any kind of hostile beliefs against the parents and how they're raising their children, thinking they know better or perhaps they're too hostile with them with their Christian beliefs, this is a recipe for disaster.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why it sounds, it sounds so unbelievable, because it is. And if I, not an attorney, could read the bill and see these loopholes right away, I do question the intent of this, because there already is law in place in the state of California. California Ed Code, it's 234.7. It specifically tells the school that you have to exhaust all parental instruction going through the emergency contact list of that parent before you call social services if there's a problem and the child isn't being picked up. So currently, they have a list. They have to go through that list before they do anything. And so, again, this is totally unnecessary. So you have to wonder, well, then why are they doing it? If currently a parent gets to pick a list of 10, 20 people for their child, for you to call and pick them up at school, why on earth do we need this?
Mm-hmm.
Why on earth do the immigrants need this? They can have, 25 aunts and uncles, friends, neighbors.
And, this is...
Why do we need this bill?
Yeah, exactly, because the safeguard's already there. The protocol is already there. The parents have authorized, and this removes the parental authorization and really puts, the school or whomever in charge as to who they will surrender the children to and for whatever reason, as long as they have this document that they printed off?
Well, absolutely. They... Again, and it can be printed from anywhere, your own home computer. I mean, we printed them we were one of the sponsors of the big Rally and Lobby Day, and we printed them off our own computer, and they became legal documents under this law if it passes. And the school is being told, because that warning, remember I read that warning that is on here?
Yes.
A signature or seal from a court is not required. So, I mean, they make a point of putting that in a square box and saying, warning, you must accept this form that is being handed to you. no questions asked.
And then
this is the plain language of the bill.
And they
not making it up.
And there is no culpability for the person who hands your children over.
No, not so ever. As a matter of fact, throughout the bill, it absolves them of any liability. The doctor, the hospital, dentist, school, etc.
Now, we'll talk about the legislative process here in just a bit because it's already passed the assembly there. But you mentioned the rally. You just co-sponsored a rally earlier this week. Tell us about the rally.
Yes, so yesterday we had about almost 6,000 people in Sacramento at the state capitol. It was co-sponsored with Pastor Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, their ministry, Real Impact, and our organization, Capital Resource Institute. And we had attorneys from HSLDA, Alliance Defending Freedom, First Liberty, all these national legal groups standing with us opposing this bill. And the 6,000 people we organized a way for them to take information into every senator's office and lobby those senators to tell them no. I mean, we had groups of, 30, 40, 50 people going into each office and explaining this bill to them. And when the legislators would say, oh, I can't believe that's in there, we had trained them. They were already prepared with a copy of the affidavit and were able to point, well, here's where it says no signature required. Here's where it says check this box. You didn't contact the parent. And you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And, again, it's in the bill's language. This is, I question the intent because there's already a process in place.
And then you have the likes of Assemblywoman Celeste Rodriguez, who says that this legislation lets parents pick who will make the educational and healthcare decisions for your child. And the question is, how can she say that when this affidavit that people, sign and states that parents are not required to approve it, to designate, the caregiver, she is just plain wrong, and she is saying, groups like you are wrong in all of this, but that affidavit betrays her.
Well, she either hasn't read her own bill or she's lying. Those are the only two options for that statement.
Mm-hmm.
She's read her bill and is lying because it actually takes the authority away from the parent, or she fully intended this to happen. Or she has no idea what's in AB 495 and she's a pawn for somebody.
There are people who will say, well, I went to Snopes and Snopes is saying you're wrong on this. Respond to the Snopes if you would.
Well, apparently Snopes doesn't know how to even read a piece of legislation. So I think they compared what we're saying about the actual language in the bill, and they took Assemblywoman Rodriguez's her quote-unquote fact sheet, what she thinks is in the bill, and they're using her opinion and her words, and has nothing to do with the language that's actually in the bill. And Snopes is just flat out wrong. And you just can't read for yourself. I said it at the beginning of this interview. I want to encourage you. Go to our website, capitalresource.org, or go to StopAB495. StopAB495.com. We have a copy of the bill. We have a copy of the affidavit. Read for yourself if you don't believe me, and you decide if Celeste Rodriguez is lying, stupid, or where she's coming up with the idea that this actually gives parents more authority or any authority.
Friends, again, the website stopab495.com is a website you can go to, but I'm looking, I have a copy of the bill right before me here, Karen, and when you see these notes that are given to caregivers and to school officials and to healthcare providers, and we know what's going on, to provide the Planned Parenthood type services for girls and for schools or other relatives to go do this, or we see the body mutilating changes or chemical drugs given to young people. But it says this, and I'm reading, to healthcare providers and healthcare service plans, when signed by a relative or non-relative extended family member, this affidavit shall confer the same rights to authorize medical care and dental care for the minor that are given to guardians under Section 2353 of the Probate Code. The medical care authorized for a relative or non-relative extended family family member may include mental health treatment subject to the limitations, and they mention other statutes there too.
Right.
In other words, the healthcare provider, you have to accept this.
Yes, and you do. And so what's going to happen when someone who doesn't agree with this law, a Christian counselor, somebody comes in and is handing them this form, telling them to service or use this, or even a Christian school who gets this and they're enrolling someone and they think something shady is happening. They can't say no. It also, and again, I just go right to the bill. So it defines non-relative extended family member, which is an oxymoron. That in and of itself, I don't know how you can be an extended family member not being a relative. As any adult caregiver who has an established familial or mentoring relationship with the child. Then it defines relative to mean an adult who is related to the child by blood, adoption, or affinity with the fifth degree of kinship, including all step-parents, step-siblings, and all relatives whose status is preceded by the word great, 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 grand.
Wow.
And even if the marriage has been terminated by death or dissolution. This is their own language. I mean, again, I don't know what Rodriguez is reading.
So Assembly
again, either she doesn't know her own bill or she's lying to everyone, and we should be concerned over either one of those.
AB 495 has passed the state assembly already. Tell us where is it at right now in the legislative process in the Senate?
Right now, it is in the the Senate Appropriations, and that's very much like the Ways and Means, or it's where they, because it's going to cost a lot of money, it's where it has to go before it goes to the full Senate floor. It has until August 29th to get out of that committee. So it's either going to die there or they're going to vote it out. And if they vote it out, it goes straight to the Senate floor. And so we are asking everyone to contact your state senator in California. If you've got friends and family in California, let them know to contact their senator and tell them no on AB 495. We are hearing, and we've heard it from both sides, both the Assembly and the Senate, that yesterday's rally was so significant that it is making them very nervous, the Democrats. And so it's created a little bit of friction between the more progressive Democrats and those that are up for re-election that think this is going to be bad for their re-election. And so we want to keep that pressure on.
Now, friends, again, you can read the legislation for yourself at stopab495.com or just, go to the California website, the legislative website, and you can download it there. It is in the Senate Appropriations Committee right now, and you can reach out there. The committee does have a phone number, which is 916. And friends all over, you may contact the committee, 916-651-4101. I'll give that number again, but Karen, if you were calling that committee right now, what would you be telling them?
Well, they only deal with fiscal, so they don't even hear policy arguments. So if I were calling that committee, I would say it's way too expensive, and even the Department of Finance is opposing it. It's so expensive. So your messages have to be oriented towards fiscal issues.
Friends, we're going to be back in 1 minute. Our phone number, let's open our lines here. You can ask your questions or brief comments here for our guest today, Karen England. Our phone number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. We'll be right back.
No matter what issues you experience in life, you will find help in the book of Psalms. The Psalms bring comfort to a hurting heart.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want.
As read by Brad Canterbury, VCY America is offering an audio CD, a complete reading of the book of Psalms, bringing hope in times of discouragement.
Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted within me? Hope in God.
The Psalms provide direction for daily living.
Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.
Good for yourself and to share with others. This 5-CD set is available for a donation of $20 by calling 1-800-729-9829. 1-800-729-9829.
Friends, this legislation is at its near last hurdle. It's in the Senate Appropriations Committee right now in the California Senate. Their number is 916-651-4101. This is the last stop. If the Appropriations Committee passes this, our guest here today, Karen England from Capital Resource Institute. Karen, I understand that once the Senate Appropriations Committee, if they pass this, the next step after that is to go to the Senate for a vote. Is that correct?
Yes, it'll go to the whole floor for a vote, and we are in the last several weeks of the California legislative process. So the 29th is when it has to be voted out of appropriations by. That's the deadline. And then there will be 2 full weeks, if it gets out, of every day California will be doing nothing but floor session on all the bills, and it can come up at any time if it gets out of appropriations. So we hope we can stop it now. We hear about infighting within the Democrat caucus on this bill, and we just want to keep it up. So contacting the legislature and telling them no. And again, cite the different things that I've said. There is no background check. They don't have to even they don't have to check that they're on the sex registry or that they're a felon. No safeguards whatsoever. So this idea that a parent gets to decide, no, the pedophile gets to decide to have more rights over your child if they fill this form out.
Would it not be good as well for people to contact the governor's office?
Oh, absolutely. Contacting the governor's office because, again, the governor's clearly running for president, and this is going to come back to haunt him, and as it should. Because, again, we're also seeing where states are prohibiting abortion for minors without parental notification for consent. They are stopping the transition, the sex change, hormones, surgeries without parental notification and consent. Yet they can go visit a family member in California, and it's a free-for-all.
Yeah,
all this, they have to present this form, and Tennessee's law means nothing.
And friends, that's why it impacts every one of you across the United States of America. And if California passes this, might it be your state next? Might Illinois fall in their footsteps? Would Colorado fill in their footsteps? And would we see, the New England states, New York, New Jersey, step foot in after this as well? Here's a number for Governor Gavin Newsom as well. His number is 916-445-2841. If the Senate would pass it, it would have to go to him for his signature or veto. And friends, certainly he can put pressure on the Senate not to say, hey, we don't want to deal with this hot potato at this time. 916-445-2841. That's to Governor Gavin Newsom. You can see members of the Senate at senate.ca.gov. senate.ca.gov, and find direct numbers there for leadership, and let your voice be heard. But again, I want to understand that if it's not voted out of committee by August 29th, it's going to be a dead deal?
Yes, for now and for this year. But
Right.
like you said, what's going to stop the other states? I will tell you that everyone is looking at California, because if we can stop it here, it's going to send a signal that they've gone too far for New Jersey, Colorado. And I hate to say it, Colorado's my hometown, born and raised in Boulder. I'm surprised they didn't come up with this first. I mean, they're kind of competing with California these days as the worst state for the family. And we've got to stop it here. Everyone needs to be concerned about this, because what happens in California doesn't stay in California. And if we can stop it in California, that send shockwaves that this has gone too far, and they're not even going to introduce it in the blue states.
Friends, our phone number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. Your questions, your comments regarding this legislation, Assembly Bill 495, and there is a website called stopab495.com. Let's go to Brenda in Glassboro, New Jersey. And Brenda, you're on the air.
Hi. I was just thinking, who makes these legislations, and why are they allowed to keep doing this? Because all they're doing is clogging up progress, creating instability, and they should be held liable for the things that they put out that are ridiculous and are going to harm not only the kids, but the whole foundation of our country. Why can't we get rid of them? Fire them. That's it.
Okay.
If you're that stupid to make a bill that doesn't make any sense, fire them. They're incompetent. They're not eligible to hold that office.
And sadly, Brenda, the problem is that you have a legislator who introduces this, and you've got an assembly that has passed this in California. It is now over to the Senate, so it's already gone through one house. And I understand,
fire them all. Get rid of them. Probably most of them are either part of the Chinese. What's those other people?
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to have our guest comment. Thank you for the call here today. And let me just say this. I understand in the Assembly there were even some, not just Democrats, but Republicans that got behind this too.
Yes, there were 2 Republicans that voted yes for it. Now, again, there wasn't the full court press against it, but we do pay them to have staff to read this legislation before they vote.
Right.
And if I could read it, and your listeners can read it and see how bad it is, I don't know how our Republican legislators, with being paid with taxpayer dollars to analyze legislation, went ahead and said yes. So again, we have got to keep the pressure on, because we're also like in New Jersey. This is California. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people are in safe seats. Look what they're doing. They're even violating the Constitution. Right. The difference between what's going on with redistricting here and redistricting in Texas is that we have something that was voted on by the people to let a commission draw our lines. Totally different than what's going on in Texas. And so they're working to redraw the lines to change everything right now. And they don't care about law and order. They know, I wholeheartedly believe a majority of them voting for this know exactly what they're doing. They're redefining the family, undermining the family, and expanding who family really is. And that's their intent. It has nothing to do with caring about immigrant children, because this is the worst thing for immigrant children who are already in the shadows. Yeah. They're going to be harmed the most if this was just for immigrant children.
Friends, we'd like to hear from you on the matter. Our number, 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829. We have Warren in Watertown, Wisconsin. You're on the air.
Yes, thanks for calling in. I've experienced what you're talking about for almost 50 years with my son, Warren Jr. He was born mentally retarded and schizophrenic because of a doctor, the way he delivered him. And up here in Wisconsin, they said there was a discipline problem with him, which it wasn't. Right now he's in a group home up here in Wisconsin, and they won't put him in a proper place. He has depends laying all over his room. He can't.
Yeah, and thank you for raising it. And that's another kind of caregiving issue there, and guardianship, etc. But expand this out to every child in the state of California. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of children, and to know that this is going to be expanded in that regard and allow anybody to come in with in essence, Karen, a paper saying I'm authorized to take this child. Whether it be the school or the medical provider or whomever, they've got to accept that.
Yes, and again, this is why I go back to, they know what they're doing. This is a way for the government to be able to pick your child's new family. And think about it. These are California lawmakers with California's worldview. And that worldview is that Christian conservative parents are the problem, that we aren't transitioning our kids. And so this is a way to get them out of those families and into the government system and create a new family. They get to decide what family means. They're redefining family in this bill. They're redefining relative. And the child doesn't even have to agree. The child, there's nowhere on this that the 11-year-old child can object.
So they can be taken beyond the child's objection.
Absolutely. It requires no signature, no safeguard. Everything is ignored. Parents are not included in this process.
Let's go to Tony in Charleston, Illinois. Tony, you're on the air.
Thanks for taking my call. Brothers and sisters in Christ, we should not be surprised whatsoever what's going on, because the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. The same sort of thing
Tony?
we can do is to pray and ask God to intervene in this and to shut it completely down. Thank you for taking my call, and God bless you.
Thank you so very much indeed.
Well, can I take that one step further?
Yeah.
Because I think we need to do more than pray. I think this is our Esther moment. And it's really interesting. A lot of people will, use Esther 4:14 about being called for such a time as this. But the beginning of that talks about, if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. We, as believers, should be speaking God's truth about this bill and telling everyone.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence. There are no coincidences with Christ. So for believers, we are on this earth at this time, at this moment, listening to this radio show for a purpose. And I believe that purpose is to stand for the family.
Yes, indeed. And friends, you have the information. You need to share it with others. Many of you have relatives and friends that live in California. You have social media that you can help get the word out as well. I mean, just even give the website, stopab495.com, for more information. Let's go to Brad in West Dallas, Wisconsin. You're on the air.
Yeah, Brother Jim. Yeah, America's got to wake up. Communists and Nazis also have been doing this from time immemorial. And they'll do it with U.S. citizens. They're really not going to bother the illegal aliens much. Those people are here for destruction and taking over, just like the Muslims. Oh, and that's another group they won't bother, the Muslims. They'll go after us and our kids. So people better wake up.
What's to stop a Muslim from filling this out with ill intent and taking authority over a child?
Wow.
What did she just say? I didn't catch that.
What would prevent a Muslim from filling this out and taking authority over other children?
Try to turn your kid into one of those. Not too good.
Brad, thank you for the call here today. Or those who are just opposed to Christian values here, Karen?
Oh, I believe it is. I mean, I go back to saying, if I can read this bill, and I don't know you well, but you can read the bill and plainly see what it does.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They are redefining the family. And why are they redefining family? Because they don't like Christian families and people of faith that are exercising their religious freedom. They don't like homeschoolers. They want to get these kids out of homeschool and into a public school. So they are just redefining family to allow anyone to take the kid and school them the way they want, the way the government wants to.
Friends, the bill is about 15 pages, and you have to go beyond, just the summary at the beginning to look at the actual legislative language. We're up against a break. We'll come back to more phone calls here in just a bit. So Bernie and Lori and Al, stay on the line. We'll be back with you here in just a moment. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Karen England is our guest, Executive Director of the Capital Resource Institute. And if you missed those phone numbers we gave earlier, we'll provide those again. So be ready to jot those numbers down. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. I'm studying through the book of Revelation right now, and I'm in Revelation chapter 19. There we see John talking about an angel standing in the sun, calling for the birds. They fly in the midst of heaven to come and gather together for the supper of the great God, that they may eat of the flesh of kings and captains and mighty men, the flesh of horses. What is this? It's the end of the battle of Armageddon. The Lord God has killed all of these, 100 million to 200 million, and the blood has gotten up to the height of the bridle of the horse. It's a lot of dead bodies and carcasses. How many birds live in that area? Well, I went and researched it, and wouldn't you know, I found a website. Palestinian Wildlife Society says that more than 500 million birds pass over the Middle East twice a year in the autumn and spring migration. This is a brand new report. 500 million? Just another sign, I think, the Bible's ready to be fulfilled.
We're going to pick up another call here, and then we'll give out this contact information here. Holding the longest, Bernie is calling in right now from Milwaukee area. Bernie, you're on the air.
Yeah, my comment is in regards to the gentleman that talked about his son being in facilities. They could also attack that area with his body parts that we're looking for. We can take a patient out, and all of a sudden they just disappeared because they want to now have access to body parts. I think the overall response to all of this is what's being revealed to us is to us as citizens. We can no longer just allow people to be in our legislative body, and we have no background, we have no idea as to what it is, and we continuously put them in these positions. So sometimes you have to have crisis in order for people to wake up and realize we can't continue to do business as usual.
Thank you so very much, Bernie. Yes, indeed, we do need to wake up, and I really think this is a crisis moment as it relates to legislation like this that has been introduced and really even being lied about, whether it be through these fact, agencies like Snopes or legislators who say, no, you're carrying this wrong. Just read the bill, read the very words of this legislation. By the way, it's in the Senate Appropriations Committee right now. If they pass it, it goes before the full Senate. Their number is 916-651-4101, 916-651-4101. If I mentioned, if they pass it, it goes on before the full Senate. To get the list of senators and leadership, go to senate.ca.gov. Senate.ca.gov. CA stands for California. Senate.ca.gov. And you can contact also Governor Gavin Newsom's office, 916-445-2841. You don't have to be from California, folks, to weigh in, because this is going to impact the whole of the nation. If your family, your children, your grandchildren would travel to California, they're going to be impacted. And further, what happens in California is going to impact other blue states as well. 916-445-2841. Holding the longest, Lori in Daggett, Michigan. You're on the air.
Yes, hi. I think other people have touched on a lot of these subjects already, but I just wanted to mention, living in Germany for 9 years, you found out that around World War II they began to kidnap, basically, the handicapped, those who they would consider vulnerable people, and they just literally just disappeared. And then I see this whole thing as targeting Christians, conservatives, even Jews that they hate. I see the jihadis using it as an opportunity, like we were talking, what was mentioned already, for child brides and taking people into abusive and slavery, basically kidnapping for the sake of slavery, and even for, I think Bernie mentioned it, for orchid harvesting. I just see it as like really unbelievable, just totally unbelievable. And I'll just let you comment on what I just said, and I just pray that it doesn't pass, and I'll call over there to the governor and give him my opinion if he'll answer the phone.
Thank you,
but
Lori.
I'll still leave a message, whatever I can do.
Lori,
thank you so much for bringing this.
Thank you for the call. And Karen, the part we want to point out here is that all of these scenarios say, oh, you're carrying that to an extreme. The bill doesn't prevent those things from happening.
No, and the bill could, but it doesn't. Again, there's no signature from a parent. There's no notary. There's no background check. There's not even a depository where you file all of these forms. You just show it to the school. So there's no government, there's no oversight whatsoever. I do want to encourage everyone that's listening to sign up for updates. It's stop8495.com. We will be doing specific action alerts, and we will be keeping you updated as to this bill throughout the process. We're getting ready to send out something today. But yes, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And you know what? When progressive, American anti-Christian people show themselves, who they are, we need to believe them. In Genesis, it tells us that he was very crafty. Satan is crafty.
Yeah.
This is right before our eyes. If you heard this show and you're not outraged and doing something about it, wow, I really would question your heart, because this is frightening that anybody's children can be taken from them.
Let's go to Al in Bridgeport, West Virginia. Al, you're on the air.
Hey, Brother Jim, thanks for taking my call. It's really appalling, about all this going on. You have it in California, you have it in Virginia, all these different places. And, you talked earlier in the week about civil war and all that kind of stuff. There's been a civil war on the minds of our children for probably 50 years, man. It's been long. Well, at least since the 70s, okay? And it just, there's school choice out there, and public school I don't think is the way to go anymore, Jim. And Sister Erin, I appreciate what you're doing there, and hopefully you can get the light shed on some things, and people can wake up and maybe homeschool their kids or send them to a good Christian school.
And they're not, the problem, Al, they're not exempted from this. They're not exempted. They fall under this as well. And
mercy.
So the school would have to give sway to that affidavit coming to them. So thank you so much for the call, Karen.
Thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's why you said this is a warning to all young people. Doesn't matter if you homeschool or go to a private Christian school or to public school. All will be impacted.
Oh, absolutely. Your neighbor can have your kid visiting at the house. They can say this child is, fill out the affidavit and take them and get them any sort of medical care, mental health care, enroll them in a different school. I mean, again, take the kids underground. I am not exaggerating. Am I going to do that to a child? Absolutely not. But bad actors, this is a huge, wide open legal way for them to take authority over our children.
I'm going to squeeze
the
in
government is redefining the...
Corin in Lubbock, Texas, you're on the air.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking my call. I don't do call-ins, but, this is so unbelievable. All churches should be up in arms across all California. Regardless of what your faith might be, your children's life are in danger, that's for sure.
Thank you. And we're out of time here, but this is why Pastor Jack Hibbs is saying if this passes, parents flee the state. And Karen, that's what you're alluding to here, too. This puts all kids at risk.
Yes, and I know he doesn't say that lightly. It's
right.
Not that we don't want you to stay and fight, but you're putting your children at risk.
Friends, the website stopab495.com. Just sign on to get updates from them and stay abreast of what's taking place. Karen, thank you for being on the front lines, and thank you for warning our listeners here today on Crosstalk.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And friends, make sure you take this information you have learned today and share it with others. God bless you. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.